If this story touched your heart, we'd love to know. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below and help us build a community of kind souls who believe in second chances and the power of love. Your voice matters here. And if you'd like to join us on this emotional journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. A brand new story, just as moving, just as unforgettable, is coming tomorrow, and we'd love to have you with us when it arrives. Jack used to live a life most people would envy. At 42, he had a stable job in marketing, a cozy apartment, and dreams of giving his daughter the best future possible. But life has a cruel way of unraveling everything when you least expect it. One day, the company he worked for shut down. One by one, the clients vanished. Eventually, the layoffs came. Jack, being one of the last to go, held on to hope for as long as he could, but no new offers came, no interviews led to anything. And slowly, everything began to slip through his fingers. The rent fell behind, the bills piled up, and the savings disappeared like water through cupped hands. Then came the day he feared the most, the eviction notice. Jack and his 7-year-old daughter Mia stood outside what was once their home, with nothing but 2 bags and each other. From that moment on, survival became their daily routine. They found shelter where they could, under overpasses, park benches, and eventually behind a small abandoned house on the edge of town. There, they pitched an old tent, barely big enough to shield them from the wind and rain. It wasn't much, but it was something. Mia never complained. She smiled through the cold nights, through the hunger pangs, through the sounds of sirens that echoed through the streets. Her resilience amazed Jack. He often wondered how someone so small could carry so much strength in her heart. Every morning, he walked her to school, pretending everything was okay. He'd brush the dust off her coat, comb her hair, and say, "Have a great day, sweetheart," as if he was sending her off from a real home. Then he'd sit alone, around the corner from the school entrance, hidden from the judging eyes of other parents. He didn't want the stares, the whispers. They didn't know his story, and truthfully, they didn't care. One afternoon, after picking Mia up from school, Jack passed by a narrow alley that led to a quiet little diner. The smell of warm soup drifted into the air. Outside the back door, a few homeless people waited in line. Jack hesitated, unsure if he belonged there, but hunger, as always, pushed pride aside. That was the first time he met Mr. Bennett, the owner of the rundown diner, a man whose gruff voice couldn't hide the kindness in his eyes. He didn't ask questions. He simply handed Jack and Mia a warm container of food and said, "Come back tomorrow if you need more." From that day on, the alley behind the diner became a place of comfort, a small flicker of hope in a life that had been swallowed by darkness. Jack never imagined a man like Mr. Bennett would become the lifeline he never knew he needed. But this was only the beginning of a story that would change all of their lives forever. The days passed, and Jack continued returning to the alley behind Mr. Bennett's diner with Mia by his side. The food wasn't fancy, but it was warm, real, and made with care. And in a world that had turned its back on them, that meant everything. The old man didn't talk much, but his silent generosity spoke volumes. Still, Jack could sense something was changing. One morning, as Jack arrived to pick up a meal, he noticed the usually stern Mr. Bennett looking more worn than usual. His shoulders sagged, his eyes distant. The moment Jack sat down with Mia, the man joined them, only this time he didn't come to share food, but burden. "Jack," he said, voice low, "I don't think I can keep this place running. It's been months, customers are gone, bills keep climbing, and now I've got no choice. I put the place up for sale." Those words hit Jack harder than he expected. This diner, this alley, it had become their last safe space. Losing it would mean losing everything all over again. He glanced at Mia, who was happily spooning soup into her mouth, unaware that their fragile lifeline was hanging by a thread. Jack took a breath, then did something he hadn't done in a long time. He spoke from his gut. "Mr. Bennett, I used to be a marketing guy," he said, voice steady. I worked with businesses, helped them build brands, pull in customers. That was my life before everything fell apart. Maybe I can help you. Mr. Bennet raised an eyebrow. Help me? With what? Give me 1 week. Let me try to save this place, Jack offered. I'll sleep in the storage room with my daughter. We won't be in the way. Just give me 7 days. If I can't turn things around, fine, sell it. But if I can bring people through that door, maybe, just maybe, this place still has a chance. There was a long pause, the kind of silence that stretches tight with possibility. Mr. Bennet leaned back, arms crossed. The risk was clear. He had nothing to lose, but trusting a down-and-out stranger was still a gamble. Finally, he sighed. You've got 1 week, Jack. 1 shot. Jack felt his heart race. This wasn't just about saving a diner. It was about saving his daughter's future. That night, he and Mia moved into the storage room behind the kitchen. It wasn't warm, it wasn't clean, but for the first time in months, it had a door that locked, a roof that didn't leak, and a chance, just a chance, for something better. As Mia curled up beside him on an old mattress, she whispered, "Daddy, do you think things are gonna get better now?" Jack stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind already racing with ideas. They have to, he whispered back. They just have to, because failure was no longer an option. The next morning, Jack woke up early, long before Mia stirred. The cold floor beneath the thin mattress reminded him just how little room there was for failure. He sat on a box in the corner of the storage room, sipping instant coffee Mr. Bennet had left out, eyes locked on the back door of the diner. His mind buzzed with ideas, half-formed, risky, ambitious, but this was his shot, and he couldn't waste it. By the time Mr. Bennet arrived, Jack was already sketching on a torn piece of cardboard. Flowcharts, slogans, scribbled arrows pointing in every direction. He looked like a man possessed. When the old man asked, "You sleep at all?" Jack just smiled and said, "Plenty of time to rest after this place is full again." Jack's first move was small, almost laughably simple. He dragged an old chalkboard easel from the back of the diner to the front sidewalk. He wiped it clean, grabbed a piece of white chalk, and wrote, "Guess the dish. Get it free. Take the challenge today." It wasn't flashy, but it was different, intriguing, and most importantly, it was cheap. That afternoon, a man paused in front of the sign. Jack watched from inside, barely breathing. The man tilted his head, read the board twice, and then slowly walked through the front door. It was working. One curious customer at a time, the challenge drew people in. The rules were simple. Order a mystery dish. Guess the name before the first bite. And if you got it right, the meal and a drink were free. If not, well, you still got fed and paid just the regular price. Word traveled fast. People loved the game. Locals came with friends, families brought kids, and by day 3, Jack noticed something unbelievable. The place was busy. Mr. Bennet didn't say much, but Jack caught the way his posture changed. He stood straighter, smiled more, cooked with pride. Jack didn't stop there. On day 4, he added another twist. Mystery Juice Challenge. Guess the flavor. Drink for free. It was playful, creative, and sparked even more buzz. Still, Jack knew it wasn't enough. The diner had picked up momentum, yes, but it was fragile. A misstep could send it all crashing down again. Each night, after putting Mia to sleep on the mattress in the back room, Jack sat up alone, mapping out ideas by flashlight. His thoughts spun around customer psychology, visual appeal, scent triggers, loyalty gimmicks. It was the first time in months he felt alive, and then came the knock on the storage room door. It was Olivia, Mr. Bennet's daughter. She carried a tray of hot soup and bread, her face kind and curious. She'd been watching from the sidelines, seeing her father change, the diner shift, the energy grow. "Dad says you've got people talking," she said with a smile. That hasn't happened in years. Jack took the tray, surprised by the warmth in her voice. Let's hope they keep talking, he said quietly, because this place is worth saving. But deep down he knew they were only getting started. By the end of the week, the diner was no longer just a pit stop for food. It had become something more. The chalkboard sign had become a local curiosity. Strangers came in just to see what all the buzz was about. The Guess the Dish game had people laughing, posting photos, even tagging the diner online. Jack had done what many thought impossible. He turned whispers of failure into a pulse of hope. But despite the growing traffic, Jack knew they needed more than just a gimmick. They needed a soul, something that would make people stay, not just stop by, something real. And he already had a feeling who could deliver that. Olivia. She had been watching from a distance, always polite, always supportive, often dropping off food or checking in on Mia. But Jack noticed something else in her, a quiet sadness, like someone who had put her own dreams on hold for too long. One night, after the last customer left and the lights in the kitchen dimmed, Jack sat down with Olivia. Mia had already fallen asleep in the storage room, curled up with her favourite blanket, her little frame barely moving with each soft breath. "Can I ask you something?" Jack said gently. Olivia, still wiping down a counter, looked up. "Of course. Do you sing?" The question caught her off guard. She blinked, then laughed nervously. "I mean, I used to. I love music. I still play a little guitar when no one's around. But performing? No, I don't do that." Jack leaned forward, elbows on the counter. "What if you did? Just one night, right here. Live music could bring in a new crowd. Something fresh. And let's be honest, this place could use your voice." Olivia shook her head, but there was a flicker in her eyes, a mix of fear and curiosity. "I'm not good enough," she whispered. "I've never performed in front of anyone. What if I mess up?" "You won't," Jack said. "But even if you do, no one here's expecting perfection. They're looking for something honest, something that makes them feel something. That's what you have." Later that night, Jack brought out an old guitar from the storage closet. It was a little dusty, the strings slightly out of tune, but the sound was still there. He handed it to Olivia with a small nod. She sat down, fingers trembling, and began to play. The first note was shaky, the second a little stronger. Then came the voice, soft, raw, beautiful. Jack stood there in silence, completely captivated. He wasn't just hearing a voice, he was witnessing someone stepping into who they were always meant to be. When the last note faded, Mia clapped softly from the mattress. "Miss Olivia," she said sleepily, "you sing like a princess." Olivia smiled, tears welling in her eyes. That night, they decided, the diner would host its first live music night the following weekend. And Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was no longer just about saving a diner. It was about saving each other. The weekend came faster than anyone expected. Inside the once-forgotten diner, something new pulsed through the air. Anticipation. Jack had turned a few crates of fruit into a makeshift stage. The chalkboard outside read, "Live music tonight. Guess the song, win dessert." It wasn't a high-end concert hall. It didn't have flashing lights or expensive speakers. But it had something better. Heart. That night, Olivia stood under a single bulb, guitar in hand, voice barely steady. Her eyes scanned the small crowd, locals, friends, curious passers-by who had heard the buzz. And right up front, Jack and Mia sat beaming with encouragement. The first chord rang out, and silence fell. Then Olivia began to sing. Her voice, though gentle, carried the weight of someone who had held back too long. Each lyric, each note, wrapped around the room like a warm blanket. Jack watched the diners slowly put down their forks, turn their chairs, and just listen. Applause filled the room after every song, and when customers guessed the titles right, they clapped not for the dessert they'd won, but for the way Olivia made them feel. That one night changed everything. Within days, the diner was packed, not just with hungry mouths, but with loyal hearts. People came back not just for the food, but for the stories, the energy, the warmth. Jack and Olivia started switching off shifts. He'd handle the marketing and service. She'd handle the music and meals. Mia became the diner's unofficial mascot, greeting guests with a toothy grin and often reminding them, "Guess the song Don't Forget." Mr. Bennett returned a week later from visiting family, expecting to find his place half empty and ready for a sale. Instead, he found it thriving. The for sale sign was gone. Tables were full. The chalkboard was lit up with new challenges and games. And Olivia? She was glowing. When Jack approached him, apron tied and towel over his shoulder, Mr. Bennett could barely speak. His gruff voice cracked with emotion. "I left a dying business," he said. "I came back to a miracle." Jack smiled, but shook his head. Not a miracle, just people who still believe. Later that night, as the crowd thinned out, Mr. Bennett called Jack into the back. He didn't waste time. "You're a hell of a worker, Jack," he said, leaning on the counter. "But more importantly, you're a good man. My daughter's happier than I've ever seen her. And if you're thinking about making things official, just know, you have my blessing." Jack was speechless, his face flushed, heart pounding. 2 months later, Jack and Olivia were married. The ceremony was simple, held right there in the diner, under string lights and surrounded by laughter, music, and the smell of fresh bread. Mia was the flower girl, and Mr. Bennett walked his daughter down the aisle. Years passed. The diner became a local legend, then a franchise. Jack and Olivia bought a house, welcomed a baby boy, and turned their once broken lives into something whole. And through it all, one truth remained. Sometimes, the most beautiful stories begin when you've lost everything. If this story moved you the way it moved us while telling it, we'd love to hear from you. What part of Jack, Olivia, and little Mia's journey touched your heart the most? Was it the moment Jack refused to give up, Olivia's first brave performance, or the unexpected wedding in a place once filled with silence and struggle? Every detail in their story is a reminder that no matter how low life drags us, there's always a way back, with love, courage, and the right people beside us. We invite you to drop a comment below, tell us where you're watching from, and share your thoughts. Would you have made the same choices Jack did? Have you ever experienced something that turned your life around when you least expected it? And if you want to follow more stories of hope, transformation, and second chances, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. A brand new tale is coming tomorrow, and trust us, it's one you won't want to miss.